He's back. David Stone withdrew his name from the transfer portal. We'll discuss.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there for tuning in and subscribing to the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. The Oklahoma Sooners got some great news on Easter Sunday. David Stone withdrew his name from the transfer portal, first reported by Matt Zenitz and Chris Hummer of 247 Sports. Jay, this is absolutely huge for the Sooners.
It's what Oklahoma needed, was some good news on Easter Sunday. It's funny, there's been a couple posts. Shout out to our guy, Travis Davidson over there. He does K-Ref. He does the JP and Trav show. But he said that it'd be funny if David Stone enters the portal here on Friday and then rises out of it on Easter Sunday. And sure enough, here we go. He knew something. Or saw or guessed or just was praying that it would actually happen. So we had to jump in and go live on it. It made sense to really talk about it that David Stone is now back. He's made his return. He withdrew. He actually made a social media post. Did you see that, John?
I did see that. Yeah, that was, let me see if I can find it real quick, but I thought it was, interesting.
I have it pulled up and I'll go ahead and read it to everybody real quick. It says, Sooner Nation, after taking the necessary time and examining my options, I have removed my name from the portal and will be furthering my education and career at OU. Sooner born, sooner bred, and when I die, I'll be sooner dead. So what it sounds like, he something came together to make things work out for him. Let's just put it that way.
No, it's absolutely huge. Who knows exactly what went down, but George Stoya of Sooner Scoop was reporting that the coaching staff, players met with David Stone on Saturday to try and kind of get the ball rolling to make sure that this didn't escalate further towards him finding a new team. And listen, shout out to the players, shout out to the coaching staff, because this is a kid that, like, up until Friday night, all you've been hearing is positive things about him all offseason, doing everything the right way, going about his business, putting on the weight that he needed to put on, doing the work he needed to do, was one of the bright spots of spring ball. He will be a bright spot of fall camp.
Yeah.
But even the coaching staff was praising him when they were meeting with the media. So it was just a shock that it all kind of came to this. But when a guy like this does enter the portal, it makes everybody kind of take notice, and you're like, oh crap. And there are some players and some people that are worth going the extra mile for and going to bat for. And you can see that this team believes that David Stone is worth that. Not just the coaching staff, but the players, right? Because listen, they gave Devon Mitchell time after time after time after time and ultimately said, hey, listen, it's time to do something different. Yeah. David Stone entered the portal for one day and the team went to bat for him. The coaching staff went to bat for him. They were circling the wagons, pun intended, to make sure David Stone didn't get out of Norman. And shout out to the leadership on this team, to the coaching staff. And listen, if whatever Jim Nagy had to do as well to rectify the situation, shout out to him too, because you cannot let a guy this talented with this much potential get away from you. And they weren't willing to do that.
Yeah, they were willing to fight for him. And I mentioned that too when we talked about it on Friday, that David Stone's beloved, and he's one player you don't want to lose. David Stone is projected and has the potential to have a massive 2025 that will propel him to lead things on the 2026. He was a critical component of our two deep right now, as in he was right behind Dominic Williams. So I wasn't trying to minimize him. He was critical. He's an important, and it was sad to see him go. You still got three guys, and what that would have happened if David Stone did leave, you would have been out having to search for another player to prepare for 26, not for 25, but for truly 26. Now, granted, it's a good chance that David Stone shows up and shows out for 25 and becomes a massive piece, him and Dominic Williams with Jaden Jackson, Grayson Halton, that four-headed monster becomes a big play for our defensive line, especially if they're too deep. Interior-wise, man, we may have one of the best in the country. We're up there top 5 at minimum. Halton is considered top 120 in the country from CBS. We talked about in one of the other episodes not too long ago. We all know that Dominic Williams contributes in a great way, and Jaden Jackson's a freshman All-American. And so now Stoney has that chance to jump. And so to me, you saw Nagy put out a emoji of the smiley face with the shades, Mr. Cool. So obviously he had a component in this, and they probably sat down, had the discussion afterwards when, David decided he wants to look around and see what options were available. And they probably talked through and be like, look, your teammates going back for you. The culture is there. Everyone loves you. Plus, like I said, he's beloved as just a human being. Like, I've heard nothing but great things about him from people in the community. I've heard great things from players I've talked to. Everyone loves the kid. So the best part is now the staff and everybody was able to get the deal sold. So again, like you said, John, certain players are definitely worth the fight for. I know Nagy does not want to have a situation where everybody enters the portal to fight for more money. I don't know if this was a more money situation. Josh Newberry on his show, The Inside Scoop, Pete Nakos jumped on there. And Pete Nakos talked about the situation literally an hour and a half before the graphic drop that he was coming back. And he basically said David Stone's situation was more external than internal. We have done a good job of not really talking about that part. I have strayed away from anything external outside of play on the football field. And because that started to become reported publicly, they must have figured out something to help him on the external side. So if that's the case, I'm happy and glad that they were able to figure things out and help with a solution going forward.
This is just one of those guys. Like I said, he's worth the fight.
Yeah,
I know, you didn't get a whole lot out of him as a true freshman. And I've said it and I'll say it again. Defensive tackle is a difficult position to transition from high school to college, from college to the NFL. It's just one of those positions that is difficult to make that transition. The dude is going to be one of the best in the country at some point in his Oklahoma career. And that's a guy that you continue to develop. You continue to build your defense around because he's going to be that good. It's a different situation than what I think Tennessee had with Nico Iamaleava. It's not the same situation. It's not the same circumstance. One, whatever David Stone's NIL package deal is, I don't know what it is. It's not close to what Nico was getting. And then Nico was out there trying to ask for more after an average season.
Yep.
This wasn't that situation at all. Not the same. And David Stone, you want to develop the player. You want to continue to build and mold him into what he can be. And so for the program, players, coaches, front office people, to rectify this situation before it got any further, to me, it shows a lot. Like, hey, you're not happy? Something's up? Let's figure this out together. And shout out to David Stone for being willing to listen too, right? Because we talk about it. Yeah. We had a situation in a circumstance similar to this after the 2023 season with a true freshman offensive lineman who wasn't happy, didn't like what his circumstances were, and ghosted everybody.
Talk to my dad. Go talk to my dad.
Offensive line coach, the coaching staff, his teammates, just ghosted everybody and bounced. But David Stone kept his eyes and his ears open. He kept a clear eyes and a full heart because he wanted to be at Oklahoma. To me, that was never in question from his recruiting from, joining the Sooners, when he finally committed, it was clear he wanted to be at Oklahoma. And now he gets to stay at Oklahoma. So shout out to everybody that's involved, including David Stone. There's a lot. We all have a lot of emotions. I'm an emotional person too. And we can all say things in the moment, in the heat of our emotions, and whether right or wrong, and it can break down relationships.
Yeah,
but
do me a favor, delete them tweets.
Yeah. David Stone showed a lot of maturity by keeping an open mind and an open heart to listen to the guys and the coaches and the players that he's built relationships with.
Agreed. 100% agree with you on all of that. Preach that sermon. And y'all go delete y'all tweets for real though. Like seriously, I wasn't joking there. Go delete all the crazy stuff y'all put out there. Because now that we're going to delete it, it's totally worth it. So, but you are 100% spot on, John. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. So what's next for the Oklahoma Sooners? The Oklahoma Sooners are pursuing a wide receiver in the transfer portal. We'll discuss more of that coming up in the next 2 segments here on Locked On Sooners. Thank you for joining us live on Sunday night as we're getting ahead of this David Stone stuff. All that's coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades supply house, whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work. Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone lines, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Easter to everybody. Hope it's been a wonderful day. You've been able to find some dry spots in your Easter Sunday. But Jay, I wanted to read what Todd Bates had to say about this. He said, choosing a university to attend is one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. Fans love this game, but many never experience the pain or challenges that players go through, especially in this new era of college football. Love for somebody comes out as hate when you are hurt and thinking about what you are losing. We are blessed to have David Stone, aka Agent Zero, continuing here. And I know Sooner Nation will embrace him as you did when he chose to be a Sooner out of high school. Boomer!
Everybody hype. Sooner. You know it. And I love that Bates went out and said something about this and put something out there, because a lot of us were, I understand fans being sad. We were live when the announcement came down, and one of the conversations that fans were asking, like, okay, so why should we continue to support, NIL, and why should we do that? You do NIL and everything specifically because you're supporting your school and any circumstance that happens. It's like buying stock with a company that you like. And the difference here is that it honestly ain't making you no money. It's just really something that you enjoy. So for that, what you want to do is make sure that you're there to support the school and pray the coaching staff figures it out and gets you exactly what you need in order to be successful. And so it's always unfortunate. I hate it. I hate that, we have to deal with this, while at the same time, I get it. The game's the game. We finally found a way to, make sure players can get taken care of in some capacity. But people took NIL, masked it as pay to play, and they figured out a way to circumvent the system. And it's all because the NCAA didn't actually have a legitimate plan. So the good thing is we're past that. The House settlement hits. This should be the last summer of really ridiculousness. We should see some consistency going forward. But hey, now the Sooners need to start focusing on what we need. We got a few positions we could probably use some additional components of. I think Brent Venables and Jim Nagy did an interview recently. And John, one of the statements was, you probably can find a need at every position. So we're going to categorize what's the most important and then go after what we can use. If we can find a player that changes the game for us, paraphrasing, they're going to go after them. And it feels like we're probably going to get there. There's a couple of positions we could use right now. Let's put it that way.
So where do you think Oklahoma goes next from here?
So we definitely could use one more wide receiver. We're going to talk about that offer in the next segment, but there are some visitors actually pulling up on Monday as well. I think a tight end and a defensive lineman is still coming. Now, hear me out. You may be asking, Jay, we just landed David Stone back. He just withdrew from the portal. Why would we go after a defensive lineman? Well, we've always said we wanted one more defensive lineman, mainly someone at the David Stone or younger age, because we could use one more good body to develop with a Trent Wilson. Because keep in mind, just because the house settlement hits ain't gonna mean the transfer portal gonna change that much. I think if anything, the proposed was to make the portal only have one window, which would be the winter window, or when the season ends, like right after the national championship, the portal will open and kids can do their transfer and stuff, which will be during winter workouts. If that's the case, you're still going to have players in the portal available. Still going to have players you can go after. So for us, a tight end will be good, just one more possibly, and then we can just let everybody fight it out. But we definitely could use one more defensive lineman. We can get a defensive lineman that's young and a linebacker. Just youth components, I think we'll be set. What do you think?
Yeah, I think if you're looking, I need to find guys that have several years of eligibility left. I don't know necessarily if you need to go after 1-year rentals, except for maybe wide receiver. And
fair point.
And I don't even know about tight end, dude. Like after Kojiel went to Houston, I was like, and injuries went to Texas. I'm like, okay. Like those were the two guys. Those were the two guys at tight end I felt like upgraded the unit significantly. I don't know if there's anybody else out there that upgrades the tight end position significantly better than what it is right now. Wide receiver, if you can go find me a wide receiver, great. They're going to be offering they've offered a wide receiver. They're going to be pursuing one. But again, if Jaden Gibson's around, if Giovanni Gibson's back and ready for the season, I feel okay about wide receiver. Now, you don't want to go into fall camp still a little bit uncertain as to who's going to be starting on the opposite side of, you don't really have anybody on the outside right now that's slated to start. So you still have to kind of figure that out. You've got some interesting options in, Keontae Lewis and Elijah Thomas. You've got an interesting option in Emmanuel Choice. I think at slot, you're really good with Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, and Jacob Jordan. You're set in the slot. So you need to find a guy on the outside that I think helps, improve your depth and improves your talent. Cornerback. I think cornerback's still a place where they could potentially look to add a guy. And kicker. Everybody's talking about kicker in the YouTube live comment sections. And I know that a guy from old Reggie Powers, the third's high school, entered the transfer portal. And so there's a potential option there. I think he was at Miami of Ohio or
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
And that kid had a solid season. So, maybe they'll make a little run at him, but I think you could afford to find somebody at kicker to add some depth and some competition because you don't really have an answer based on everything that we're hearing out of spring ball.
Yeah, when it comes to kicker, the one thing on that is really a very mental game. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be able to play the mental game, and that's when you start finding these kickers that you're hoping for that could stand out for you. And so I'm totally here for a kicker like, the one from Miami of Ohio, regardless. When it comes to kicker, I don't care what school you came from. Mm-hmm. Can you make a 50-yarder? And do you have a really good percentage in making your field goals? If you do, that means you probably won most of the mental game. So then at that part, I don't have a reason to complain, right, John? Like you're doing what you need to do. So kicker is a need and I think that kicker really is a need because our kickers are very young. We have a freshman and a sophomore. Freshman and a redshirt freshman. So we have very young kickers. Go ahead and get you one of those just to make sure we're solidified there. Wide receiver, Let's talk about this offer. I think that that's probably the player that there's a reason why Oklahoma's doing it, and it's probably not what you think.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about Keelan Marion coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. And with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. The all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. So make sure you toggle on that feature when you're inside the Game Time app to get the all-in pricing. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, go check out Locked On Thunder with our guy, the phenomenal Rylan Stiles. You're going to have a phenomenal postseason with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Got the 51-point win over the Grizz to open their first-round series. As a lifelong Oklahoma City Thunder fan, I'm a new Oklahoma City Thunder fan because the Mavericks traded Luka. Man,
Welcome.
I'm an everydayer now to Locked On Thunder. So go check out our guys' work over there as the postseason goes on. The Oklahoma Sooners offered a wide receiver out of BYU, Keelan Marion. He was a dynamic wide receiver, averaged 26.6 yards per reception. Sorry. Yards per game. He averaged 14.4 yards per reception, 346 yards on 24 catches and 1 touchdown this season. As a true freshman at Connecticut, he had 474 yards and 5 touchdowns. But Jay, tell the people about what Mr. Marion brings to the table outside of the passing game.
Return game, 38 returns, 800 and something yards, 3 touchdowns. I don't think Oklahoma's going after him specifically for his wide receiver capabilities. Now, granted, he can make catches as you need him to, and he's really good in space. That's what really good returners are really good in space, and he is one of those players. And so because of that, Oklahoma he got that offer because we're looking at the situation like this. Jaden Gibson and Jaden Gibson, who both should be ready to go in August. I mean, I know you guys probably saw rumors that a veteran was looking at potentially hitting the portal, and then no wide receivers hit the portal. You got those two potentially coming back. He has got some nice size. He's 6'1", like 180, so you've got yourself a nice size guy. And for him, the big thing is the return game. So Jaden Ott, who we just got from Cal at running back, is also a return specialist. He's pretty solid at it. I don't know if I want my starting running back to be returning kicks anymore, especially the way the SEC play. I ain't trying to deal with no injuries. We trying to get past that. We trying to be healthy. We trying to, do better than that. So because of that component, if you can get a guy that can be just focused on mainly the return game as well as toss him in here and there at wide receiver, that's money. I think that's huge. So he's supposed to be visiting sometime this week. Actually, I think possibly Monday is one of the reports I saw online floating around with him. Someone asked in the comments about Jalen Stone, the defensive lineman from Southeast Missouri State. He is scheduled to still visit on Monday, so you've got yourself a couple of guys. A tight end is also supposed to visit on Monday. So Oklahoma is still laying out these visit schedules, but the Keelan Marion pickup would be huge, especially for the return game. That would get Coach Deacon a nice guy that could just be dedicated to returns, and he ain't got to ask no questions about if he's putting him in harm's way. Let's put it that way.
Well, yeah, and it allows Isaiah Satania to focus mostly on punt returning because he's a dynamic punt returner. And if you can have one guy that's your kick returner, and Keelan Marion, and you've got Satania who can be your punt returner, and let both of those guys still play wide receiver, it gives you options. It gives you a little bit of insurance too, that you're not relying on just one guy to be your return guy. And I listen, special teams matters. Oklahoma's let special teams kind of be okay and maybe below average for far too long, that we've got to find a significant difference maker at wide receiver or at returner. And this is an opportunity to get some wide receiver depth, a guy that's got some collegiate production, and get a guy who's made some big returns as well. So I think it's good. And listen, this is a big week for Oklahoma on Jalen Stone. Like, still bring him in. That dude's got 3 years left of eligibility.
That's huge for
Yeah.
what we're doing. And you talked about that. That's huge for us because we need someone with time to be here.
Yeah.
We're not in desperation mode. Let me rephrase that. The places where we were in desperation mode, where we needed guys to immediately step in and play, we've got that. We got Derek Simmons on the offensive line, so you got a Duke that's only got 1 year left.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Michaela, he's got 2 years left, but he technically kind of gives you 1 full year right behind Troy Everett if he doesn't push Troy Everett for the center spot. You've got more wide receivers who are really only have 1 year left with Keontez Lewis. I think Giovanni Gibson had 2 years left. So you kind of got guys that were older. And then like Dominic had 2 years left. You got him because you needed some veteran presence. Marvin Jones Jr. has 1 year left of college. So Kendall Daniels has 1 year left of college. So my point is, the places you really needed just a player with just a little bit more seasoning compared to the young guys, you filled those. You're filling those. Probably could use one more veteran corner just in case Gentry and Eli and Kendall Doby needs like some more time. But for the most part, you filled most of all your holes. You're pretty solid. Now you could use some additional young pups that you can season up in prep to play over the next couple of years.
Yeah, because Dominic Williams, he's gone after this year. Grayson Halton could be gone after this year. I can't remember if he redshirted or if he's just a true junior. And so if he has another big year, then potentially he could be out the door as well. So you need some defensive tackle depth to go along with David Stone, Jaden Jackson, and Trent Wilson, Marcus Strong. Like, that's a good group that you can build around, but you've got to continue to add to that depth. Now, they're going to continue to do that in the 2026 recruiting class, but if you've got a guy with experience like Jalen Stone has and someone who can already add some of that development and that potential to your unit, I think it helps fast track that a little bit more. So I like the idea of Jalen Stone, but they've been really smart, I think, with what they've done so far in the spring portal window. And they're going to continue to be aggressive and listen, they've got areas where they can continue to improve, where it doesn't necessarily lead to guys bolting because, oh, I've only got 1 year left and they're recruiting over me. No, you've got a young roster at a lot of spots and you're still developing those guys. And you can afford to add talent to make sure that you're secure at those spots like cornerback, tight end, wide receiver, as you go to 2025, because it's a make it break it year. Everybody expects they're going to be good, but if they're not, there could be a lot of turnover. But the coaching staff can't afford to lay back and be like, no, we got guys that we like and we can continue to develop. If they're not ready, they're not ready. And you've got to have guys that are ready to play.
Yeah, you do. You need more of those. And the good thing too is, kind of as mentioned, Chuck, in the comment section about Jaden Gibson potentially hitting the portal. Doesn't look like that's a case or a situation that's even really going to happen at all. And so even though the portal doesn't close until Friday, even with that in mind, there's a good chance other players around the country will probably end up hitting the portal, and you have an opportunity to go find somebody else. There may be other options that could populate over the next 5 days. So we've got a full week of portal conversation of people entering the portal and targets, but commitments, they don't have to commit until, honestly, right before the first day of school in August. So there'll be a lot of players that'll still be floating around, doing visits, trying to figure out what their next move is. So don't be surprised on that. And the only other time you will probably see somebody get a job like go into the portal and do visits is like we did with Jake Michaela, because the Stanford coach got fired. When Andrew, Captain Andrew Luck decided that he need to go ahead and just cut bait. Because of that, they were available to go before the portal entered, and that's how we were able to get our hands and have that conversation. So keep that in mind as well. I don't believe that it'll be a situation where I think we're good on our team as of now. Now, knock on wood, hopefully I don't jinx us, But let's just pray that we're solid. But it's going to be fun next few days. Visitors coming through. We have a lot of conversations. And, of course, me and John will dive into it deep.
Yeah, I got to just highlight this comment from Zofix here on YouTube. He says, the portal giveth and the portal, well, it's not taking right now. Call back later. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that's, Oklahoma is just added through the portal. So here we are. It is the 20th of April as we're recording this. And we're a week, from Oklahoma's Crimson Combine / spring game. And if you were going to see significant portal departures, I feel like they would have happened already.
Yep.
Knock on wood, because I said this.
You just had one Friday.
And David Stone into the portal. So thankfully he saved me a little bit from looking like an idiot for jinxing this team. So yeah, man, this is fun. This is fascinating. I think Oklahoma is going to be able to make some significant additions here in the next week that help them. And again, even though the portal will close this week, any player still in the portal is open to pursuit from college teams. Once you're in the portal, you can continue to be recruited and pursue opportunities. You just have to be in the portal by the 25th to have your name considered. Just clarifying that. All right, and that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. You can also follow me on social media at John 9 Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer. And everybody said
Sooner. Yeah, we had like 5 guys. Don't worry. We'll talk more about who's in the portal and wrap that up for you this week. Y'all be good. Happy Easter.